Hey now, welcome to the Winnipeg Sports Talk post-game reaction. Michael Remis here with Connor Hrabchak after the Winnipeg Jets 4-3 double overtime win in Game 7 to win the series 4-3 and advance to the second round against the Dallas Stars. It was an incredible game, incredible comeback, incredible atmosphere. Coming to the game, Connor, a lot of talk about the lineup. What changes would we see? Mark Scheifele was listed as game time decision yesterday, but this morning did not take the morning skate. And Scott Arniel announced that he would not be in the lineup. And there was one other change. Hayden Fleury coming in, Logan Stanley out, and the forward line's the same. I mean, tough break coming into the game for the Jets with no Mark Scheifele.
Yeah, and we can stand here and say, hopefully Mark Scheifele's back for game 1 of the second round, right? What an effort. Obviously, we'll get into it. Probably the first thing of this game that we'll talk about is the Blues goals and then Josh Morrissey being out. So to already be down Mark Scheifele and for the team to persevere the way that they did was incredible. But yeah, tough news coming into the game that they'd have to win this game without their franchise 1C. And they did it.
Yeah, and you have to wonder, coming into this Dallas series now, will they get healthy? Will they be more relaxed going in? Because it seemed, when the puck dropped, here, we'll go more into pregame Hrabchak. If there's any doubt, if he was the Winnipeg Jets fans guy, a lot of talk about his play throughout the series, being pulled 3 times in St. Louis. The MVP chants were loud. Big cheers for him in the pregame, as there has been all series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I said it on Winnipeg Sports Talk on Saturday. You guys did a little pop-up show. I thought the MVP chants were going to be even louder coming out of Game 6. Connor Hrabchak has struggled on the road all series long. No secret. Every single fan in this building knew it, that he struggled on the road. And the MVP chants were the loudest they've been all series long. And I think Connor Hrabchak shook off a rough start. And that's where maybe we can start with this game.
Yeah, Game 7. And I don't know what you did today, Connor, but the feeling of tension in the air.
I was outside. It was a beautiful day.
It was a beautiful day, 28, LA car. You're counting down to this moment and what it would mean for the Winnipeg Jets to advance to the second round, which they haven't done since against sweeping Edmonton.
Yeah.
And the last 2 early first-round exits. Would it be another early first-round exit for the President's Trophy winners? We're getting to the first period, and shout out to the sponsor, KFC Canada, an official partner of the Winnipeg Jets. And they're committed to providing Jets fans a delicious game day experience with exclusive finger-looking good promotions they're proud to bring to Canada Life Center. On Jets game days, KFC Canada is giving away their Big Crunch chicken sandwich for just $4.95 at participating Winnipeg KFC locations to help Jets fans enjoy the game with a big hit. So the next one would be Wednesday. Yes. I was worried we weren't going to get this deal anymore on Jets game days, but it's back Wednesday. Colonel Sanders, he's been in full whiteout gear all playoffs, cheering on the Jets, and Kyle F. Connor, looks like KFC really loves KFC, and the St. Louis Blues start off the game like they have pretty much all series, very strong, and scoring on their first shot, Connor. Jordan Kyrou and Colton Parayko, after some defensive miscues, ended up on just passing in front of Connor Hrabchak, and Kyrou puts it in. It felt like it was going in slow motion for the Jets, who I think Scott Arniel mentioned after that the nerves seemed to get to them, and you could kind of tell on that play.
Very reminiscent start. We've seen this many times in this series. What a series it was, but the starts are something the Jets will have to figure out going into the next round. They clearly looked nervous. This crowd was absolutely into it. One of the biggest things coming into this game would be the Jets' ability to feed off the crowd, and they did that later in the game. But the first 5 minutes, they were scrambling. You can't let this happen. 2 passes on a 2-on-1 back and forth. Like, what is Connor Hrabchak supposed to do on this one? I think whoever made the pass back had a goal if they wanted to shoot it, and then they passed it back, and that player had a goal too. So just a really bad defensive breakdown early in the game, and this building went silent. They were nuts. It was Game 7. Everyone was hyped up, and you could hear a pin drop in here after that first goal, and especially the second one.
Yeah, I had to check my location on my phone. I thought I was in St. Louis. I thought the Jets at home were supposed to be right. They had won all their games coming into this, and St. Louis really brought in a lot of talk about Connor Hrabchak coming in. Early on, I thought his puck playing behind the net, I described in my notes as sketchy at times, and wondering how would he react to getting scored on early after we've talked about his numbers in this series, well, throughout every post-game reaction. The Blues, they were bringing it heavy, bringing the hits, and they scored their second goal with 12:44 remaining. Kyle Connor, forgets the puck at center. Matthew Joseph picks it up. He just takes a shot on a one-on-one. Felt like a mirror image of the Shen goal in the previous game, and I thought maybe it beat Hellebuyck clean, but Morrissey may have got a piece of that.
And I agree. Not only was it reminiscent of the Shen goal in terms of like shot location and how it beat Hellebuyck, but also how much it deflated this crowd, the team. They didn't bounce back in the first period. They really bounced back in the second. But everyone in this crowd, rightfully so, was wondering, oh my goodness, here we go again with Connor Hrabchak. This is 2 goals in the first 3 shots. This one is from a little bit farther out. I didn't see a tip. I'd have to see a replay of it. But yeah, this is one that Connor Hrabchak absolutely has to save. He made up for it later on in the game, and we'll talk a lot about Connor Hrabchak later on. But this crowd absolutely went silent. Everyone was worried about Connor Hrabchak. And this is one that you just have to have at that time of the game, but the Jets were able to persevere from it, obviously.
Yeah, and I think if you're in the bench Hellebuyck camp, you're looking at Scott Arniel saying, okay, if he let in another soft one, and there have been goals that he'd like to have back in just about every game in this series, and I think that was certainly one from distance, but no, they're full 100% confidence in Connor Hrabchak, and that confidence paid off in overtime in the third period.
Yeah.
And again, I think the Blues in the first period remind me a lot of the first period of Game 1, hitting everyone very hard. I think the Jets at one point in the first had more hits than the Blues, but I thought the Blues ones were more impactful, and the most impactful one was the one on Josh Morrissey, who left the game with about 10 minutes left and didn't return, got tangled up with Oscar Sundqvist behind the net, and that's just a huge loss for them. Mark Scheifele, your number 1 center out, and your number 1 defenseman out as well. How would the Winnipeg Jets respond? We did see them respond in Game 5 without Mark Scheifele, with all the centers, especially Nemestikov, stepping up, and just a tall order here. We're missing your number 1 center and now number 1 D.
Yeah, and obviously going into round 2 now, all eyes will be on the status of both of those players. If the Jets are going to have any shot against the Dallas Stars, those guys are going to need to be healthy, because Dallas is going to get back Miro Heiskanen and Jason Robertson, or at least that's the expectation. So we'll have a lot to cover in terms of that. But what an effort from the 5 defensemen. Like, I can't say enough good things. Neil Pionk played the game of his life in this game. I think he ended it with over 45 minutes of time on ice. I could be wrong. You can double check that. Hayden Fleury coming in, like Game 7 legend. We'll have to discuss that. Like, he was incredible as a guy who wasn't even supposed to play. Logan Stanley was out because of an injury. And Dylan Samberg played well. Luke Shen had some bone crushing hits. And I'm like, this was such an incredible performance from all 5 defensemen. Dylan DeMello included. He's the one name I didn't mention there, but I have to mention all 5. Josh Morrissey going down in the first 10 minutes. This game going to double overtime, logging the minutes that they did and the performance that they had. I can't say enough good things about all 5 defensemen stepping up.
Yeah, Neil Pionk, 46-15 with 3 assists, and Dylan Samberg, 44 minutes. It did remind me a lot of, it was Game 3 against Vegas where Morrissey was injured, and Neil Pionk, that may be the second best game ever. And it was a similar game where the Jets tie it up late. They were not able to win overtime in that game. This game, they did come out on top. Mm-hmm. And again, I thought the Jets were responding. You mentioned Hayden Fleury. I thought he started laying the body. He was skating well all night. And yeah, stay tuned to the end of this reaction video where we give our Game 7 Legend award, and we'll do Series MVP award as well.
Absolutely.
And the first period ended, and there were some light boos in the crowd for the Winnipeg Jets. You can understand on the road. You've seen it, getting scored on the first shot, getting down very early, having these lapses. But at home, the Jets have been pretty solid, all season. And it's just it was just nightmare fuel. I don't know, for the first period. Like, I don't know how else to describe it if you're in the building.
You could not have scripted a worse start for the Winnipeg Jets in this game. You lose Josh Morrissey, you're down 2-0. Connor Hrabchak looks shaky, and you generated, 3 shots on goal in the entire first period? Like, that is, if you told me what is the worst possible start going into this game, I would say losing Josh Morrissey and Connor Hrabchak looks shaky. And that's what happened. And the Jets didn't generate any offense. We already talked about Mark Scheifele not being in the lineup for this game. Them not generating was a cause for concern, especially with no Josh Morrissey, who didn't return for the second period and the rest of the game. But yeah, really brutal start. And the boos were kind of warranted at the time because the Jets didn't bring it in the first period, but they definitely brought it the rest of the game.
Yeah, they're down 2-0, and I thought they came out all right here in the second period. The best chance, Nemestikov had a couple of these.
Yeah.
Took it to the net after creating a turnover, and Binnington sticks out the leg, and Nemestikov not able to get it on net. There were some other chances. Ehlers with a slapper down the wing. The Jets, I know 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, they're playing pretty well here, but still down 2-0. And
Right.
you know Jordan Binnington, how he's performed in big games over his career. And again, Nemestikov, another chance. But hey, the Jets' #1 power play, and this is the first power play of the game. And you know they really call in terms of officiating. They called 0 penalties.
Let 'em
they
play.
let everything
Yeah,
go. I
totally.
mean, they could have called a number on both sides. Dominic Toninato with a gloved punch on a Blues player in the first period. I remember Brandon Tanev going into the corner, hitting a guy maybe late, and then delivering multiple cross checks.
Game 7,
it's
baby.
Game 7. It was Game 7. They let everything go, but there was a power play. It was Oscar Sundqvist, and it didn't take them very long. Neil Pionk taking the top spot, or sorry, top of the
Power play.
under the blue line.
Yep.
Gives Kyle Connor, and Kyle Connor feeds it to Cole Perfetti with maybe the nicest tip I have ever seen in the corner, and that's how you score on Jordan Binnington. You're not going to score in straight shots. You got to get him going. You got to score with tips, and it seemed like they figured that out as the game went on.
Unbelievable deflection by Cole Perfetti, and we're going to talk a lot about Cole Perfetti, I think, in the final rest of this video, this post-game reaction, because obviously he gets the tying goal, and we'll spend a lot of time on that. But this goal is an all-world play. This pass is in his feet. He's just trying to deflect it on net, and not only does he deflect it on net, he deflects it bar down over the shoulder of Jordan Binnington. This puck is in the net for a quarter of a second, and then it's out. And yeah, the Jets' power play, I talked coming into it. I love the fact that Scott O'Neill didn't put a traditional center on this unit. Gabe Vilardi takes the draws. He's not a center. He's playing winger for this Winnipeg Jets team. He put the 5 best players on the ice and said, make something happen. And Cole Perfetti was one of the 5 best players in this series, maybe, and in this game, absolutely. And what a deflection to get the Jets on the board and get life into the building at the time.
Yeah, and I thought the Jets were, there was definitely some life in the building after that.
Totally.
And they were bringing the chances. Kyle Connor with a one-timer. And the St. Louis Blues, who had brought so much, force with their body checking the first period, I thought really slowed down at this point. And everyone slowed down as the game got longer and longer. And you thought, okay, maybe the Jets can tie it up here. They can come back. But they were, the Blues extended their lead with Hrabchak Faksa. Walks in and snipes top shelf on Connor Hrabchak. It was a 3-on-2 when a breakout pass went off Nikolai Ehlers' stick, and you could clearly tell that Nikolai Ehlers is fighting, I don't know what, some type of injury, but pucks were bouncing off of his stick. He was whiffing on shots, and this one really came back and bit them.
Yeah, he was fighting the puck all night, Nikolai Ehlers, for sure. This pass is in his feet. Blues come the other way. This is one that maybe you'd like Connor Hrabchak to stop, not as much as the second goal of this game, which was a little bit farther out, but 3-on-2, glove side. And this is now the 4th time in this series that the Jets have given up a goal in the final minute of a period. So that's something that they absolutely have to clean up in round 2, because this felt like the dagger. I actually wrote it in my notebook. That's the dagger. Faksa dagger is what I wrote. I love that take aged horribly, but a goal, like you do so much work to get back into the game. You make it 2-1. This building's alive. And then going into the third, a final minute goal by Hrabchak Faksa just felt like deflating, felt like the dagger. And that was the end of the second period.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't enough for the giveaway there by Nikolai Ehlers, he did take a tripping penalty with about 29 seconds left in the period.
Right.
And
5 seconds after the goal.
Yeah, right after the goal. And they were able to kill that off. And on that play, I forget which defenseman went down to try to block the Faksa shot. And I wondered if it blocked Hrabchak's view.
Maybe.
But, I mean, I was looking at Mike McKenna's tweets on the game. We had him as Winnipeg Sports Talk, former NHL goalie, saying Hrabchak maybe too deep in the net, too small, and leaving too much net open. And Faksa picked the corner. Credit to him. A lot of tension in the building. Blues 3, Jets 1, and you felt like you were, reliving games. Well, any of the ones that were in
Yeah.
St. Louis, and I wrote in my notes, will this be the last period of the 2024-25 Winnipeg Jets season? They started on the power play, the Blues did, and I thought just throughout the period, the Jets were taking a lot of shots from just about anywhere, hoping for a rebound. Kyle Connor, Gabe Vilardi, Nikolai Ehlers, and just a number of chances. Nemestikov from the side. Nemestikov, just guys shooting, and they seemed like they maybe change up the strategy. Meanwhile, the Blues, they were happy to sit back, and you thought after the 2 goals they scored, they would want to shoot from everywhere, but they were happy to enter the zone and keep possession. And you look at the shots in the third period, Connor.
15-4, I believe.
15-4, and I felt like the Blues really sat back, and it ended up hurting them.
Yeah, I wrote a lot in my notebook on potential opportunities for the Jets to get back into this game. You mentioned all of those ones there. There were so many chances where if the puck just bounced one way, or Jordan Binnington made some incredible saves as well in this third period, but absolutely, the Blues were sitting back. When they would get out of the zone, they would chip it in, they'd go for a change, they'd rag the puck in the offensive zone and kill time. They were not looking to add to their lead at all, and that ended up burning them. But I thought the Jets were controlling play in the third period leading up to the final 2 minutes, where we know what happened. This is the craziest 2 minutes maybe in Winnipeg Jets franchise history. But this was a slow burn, I think, in this third period. The Jets were getting their chances, they're getting their shots. Binnington's making some saves. St. Louis is just making some plays, and then the roof blew off this place in the final 2 minutes.
Yeah, it seemed like a change of strategy where they say, hey, we don't have Mark Scheifele. Hey, we don't have Josh Morrissey. Let's just try to get some pucks on. As you mentioned, the pucks are bouncing all over there, and they pull a goalie with 3:14 left after an icing, and with 1:55 left, Vlad Nemestikov from the side of the net, who had a number of chances throughout the game, buries one where he bounces it off Ryden Suter from distance, but that's how you got to go. And all of a sudden, hey, we have a game here.
Yeah, and I've brought this up. I think it was game 5, maybe. Yes, it was, where the Winnipeg Jets kind of got lucky with that shot going off of Parayko's ass and in, give them a 3-2 lead. When you are controlling the flow of play and you are dominating the shot share, you are bound to get lucky. And this is maybe an opportunity for Vlad Nemestikov, where he had how many chances in this game? He was controlling the flow of play. He was generating scoring chances, and he earned his luck on this one. However it bounced in, however it happened, the building was on their feet. It was 3-2, and the Jets had 2 minutes left in their season to tie the game.
Yeah, earned his luck. I like that term because, again, he had a number of chances where it could have gone, didn't go his way, and you throw pucks on net and stuff happens, and certainly did in overtime, and the Jets almost tied it up with 1:06 left. Cole Perfetti in front, whacking at it. Didn't look like it was in. They went for the review, and you couldn't. Maybe Binnington was in the net covering the puck. You just couldn't see where the puck was. It squirted out on the line. There was one angle where it looked like it was over that they showed here. But I thought they got the call right there.
They did. That one angle that you mentioned is kind of the one from in front of Binnington, so it's not the one overhead, which is ultimately the best angle for determining when a puck is in the net or not. There's also the angle from inside the net, the camera in the net, that clearly showed that this puck wasn't in. But the one angle that they showed in the building here was the one that you maybe thought where the puck was in. I don't know if that was on purpose. If it was, it got 15,000 plus riled up. And look, Cole Perfetti came that close to scoring and then ultimately tied it. So.
Yeah, and there's a play where they're dumping it in, retrieving it with their 6 players on the ice, getting pressure, and it's Nikolai Ehlers on the point, whiffing on a shot. I mean, before that, the puck bounced off his stick and over the blue line, and they had to regroup. He gets it back for a third time and says, hey, there's Kyle Connor at the side of net. I'm going to throw it to him, who finds Cole Perfetti in front for a tip-in with, I think we should frame this number in Winnipeg sports history as a 1.6.
It was 1.6?
1.3 seconds
1.3?
left. We should remember this is going to be a trivia question. And for Game 7s. But absolutely incredible. Tying the game just when you thought the season was over. And we were going to be here talking about, what could have been for the Jets and how it was a lost opportunity and how the Blues, really exposed them. But we are not talking about that. The Winnipeg Jets tied up very late in the third period.
This was the loudest crowd pop I've ever heard in my entire life, easily. Cole Perfetti 1.6. I think they added time, so maybe it ended up being over 2 seconds, like 2.2, I think.
It says 57
Okay,
in the NHL, but they don't have decimal places.
Yes, of course. But unbelievable. Okay, initially I thought Nikolai Ehlers' stick broke on the shot where he fanned on it, and then he wound back up and fired it over to Kyle Connor, but I thought I heard a crack, so I thought his stick was going to snap on that pass. Obviously, it didn't. What an incredible pass from both Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor. Kyle Connor, one touch in full motion, like takes that puck and puts it right on Cole Perfetti's tape, who's wide open in front of the net. Jordan Binnington, why wouldn't he go and challenge the shooter, Kyle Connor? Like, there's 1 second left. You do challenge Kyle Connor, who's going to one-time that puck, right? The wherewithal to have the poise to put that puck on Cole Perfetti's stick. And man, Cole Perfetti played 10 minutes in last year's playoffs and had a long goal drought, was benched down the stretch. Here he is in double overtime, game 7. He's the one that scored 2 goals to send the Jets to overtime, 1.6 seconds left. Easily the coolest moment of Cole Perfetti's career is what he said in the postgame. And yeah, what an incredible play. The roof blew off this place. It's a highlight that we will be watching for years and years to come in Winnipeg Jets history.
Yeah, I had a lot of flashbacks to that Game 3 against Vegas where Adam Lowry tied it and the place went nuts. And we had overtime, and I'm going to be honest, I sat there in disbelief. Even watching overtime, I was mentally, the time's winding down. It doesn't, the puck's not staying on Ehlers' stick. You're getting ready for this post game. I was like, well, okay, what are we going to talk about here? And again, in disbelief during that intermission. I mean, everyone who we were around couldn't believe what we just watched.
Yeah.
And even again, watching overtime, I thought I was dreaming that we were watching an overtime. I was dreaming of the Blues fans coming into our comments like they have been all series. Shout out to Blues fans who've showed up. But what an experience it was to witness that. It was incredible.
It really was. And look, it's highly improbable. It's the latest game-tying Game 7 goal in NHL history. So Cole Perfetti, 2.2 seconds left. That's the latest game-tying goal in Game 7 in NHL history. What an incredible play. What an accomplishment. What a moment for the fans in the building. You mentioned intermission. I sat there in disbelief as well. And I think everyone in this building did. No one really went to the concourse. Everyone just kind of stayed in their seats and cheered and chanted "Go Jets, go!" Like everyone was just kind of like, "What happened?" And Cole Perfetti, can't say enough good things about how well he played. Scott O'Neill said after the game that he was one of their best forwards in this entire series, and I 100% agree. Cole Perfetti earned this moment. 2 years in the making, from the scratches last year all the way to this year. Super, super happy for him because he's earned it for sure.
Yeah, and a couple of people did throw hats on the ice. Yeah. Not a hat trick. It was only the second of the game, but hats off to that play, 100%. And we're off to overtime, and the Jets, at this point of the game, they've gained all the momentum back. They haven't led for a second in this game.
Yeah.
They outshot the Blues in the third period as they sat back 15-4. And you just saw in overtime guys getting tired and more tired. The Blues came out with some force. Big hit on Cole Perfetti. Nemestikov took a big cross check from Ryan Suter at one point. But one thing that was consistent overtime is Connor Hrabchak making save after save. And if you had any questions about him, after any of the goals that he's let in throughout the series, his performance in overtime showed you why that he's been the Jets' #1 guy all year, why he's, Vezina nominee, Hart nominee, multiple Vezina winner. He was outstanding in overtime.
He really was. And the biggest thing for this first overtime, because it didn't end, obviously, we have another overtime to talk about here. I was reminded of how stressful playoff hockey overtime is when the Winnipeg Jets are involved, right? Like you watch other teams and it's very entertaining, but every time the Blues have the puck in the Jet zone, and every time Connor Hrabchak left his net to play the puck, like this crowd, you could just sense the I don't even know the tension in the crowd. It was so palpable, the tension, and unbelievable performance from Connor Hrabchak in overtime. The Winnipeg Jets stuck with him. Was Eric Comrie going to start this game? Some people wanted it. Some people called for it. But Connor Hrabchak rose to the occasion in overtime. He made a few very confident saves on 3-on-2s, stepping up to the top of his crease. And the biggest thing when Connor Hrabchak is dialed in, there's no rebounds. There are high danger looks, and he stops it and holds it, and there's no second and third opportunity. This overtime, you could tell he was dialed in because the Blues had high danger looks, but Connor Hrabchak not only stopped it, but there was no rebound either, and that was the number one sign for me that Connor Hrabchak was absolutely dialed into this overtime and was a huge reason for the Jets winning this game.
Yeah, he was getting, tip plays or, coming out and making saves. He looked like a different goalie than the one that we saw, early on
100%.
in the game. The Jets did have one power play, and this is the only power play, penalty they're going to call in overtime. There were many on both sides. They could have at one point in double OT, the Blues raising their hands in the air. That was shortly before the goal, but it was a puck over glass by Braden Shannon. I kept thinking, how poetic would it be if the Jets scored the overtime winner with Braden Shannon in the bench, the guy who knocked Mark Scheifele out for the rest of the series. And I was actually surprised he didn't get, booed at all.
When he touched the puck?
I've seen, I was kind of expecting it, maybe because Scheifele did play, and there's question on which hit injured him. The Montgomery saying the Faxa one, or maybe fans are like, hey, I'm just here to watch Game 7.
Yeah.
I'm too dialed in. I'm focused on the Jets. I'm not focused on the other team.
Did Braden Shen touch the puck much at all? I didn't notice him that much. I don't know.
No.
Yes, Winnipeg Jets fans did not boo him. He did touch the puck, but Braden Shen didn't have his best Game 7, at least from my view.
Yeah, well, the players for St. Louis stood out to me. Kyrou, Neighbors, Buchnevich, Fowler, and I was going to put him up for a series MVP, which we'll discuss at the end, but Fowler as well. And the best chance the Jets had in overtime, Nikolai Ehlers on a breakaway, and you saw guys blocking shots. One guy who I thought was going to end it in overtime, Kyle Connor, that while everyone was slowing down, he still had his speed. The game got slow, and when he had the puck, he thought he could make something happen. With him, he didn't score directly, but I thought he had a big impact in that first overtime.
I agree. And we'll get to series MVP in a second here. I don't want to tip my hand, but we will discuss Kyle Connor a little bit more, I think, later on. And going into the second overtime, you could sense that the building kind of calmed down from the Perfetti goal. The first overtime was almost still like a celebration. The second OT, it was like, okay, back to business. This was the third longest Game 7 in NHL history, this game, going into double overtime. So, I don't even know. I don't have the words, man. I got nothing for this double OT winner.
And everyone was standing in the building throughout the whole overtime. Overtime, like both of them. It was incredible. And again, I'm looking at my heart rate monitor during my watch during the game. It was very high. I mean, we want to keep doing shows. We want to continue this. You don't have to talk about another disappointing first round exit here. And, there was going to double over OT, a bit of a giveaway behind the net. Velarde involved and Jordan Kyrou. I think Jordan Kyrou had a chance early. It was another play with a Velarde giveaway, and Connor Hrabchak came out and challenged. But at the Jets, they just kept putting pucks on net, stringing together chances, and it seemed like they were going to get one at some point with the way they were playing. They did outshoot the Blues in the first overtime, 11-4. In the second one, it was 8-5, but it seemed like their strategy was, okay, we're just going to get pucks on net and hope something good happens.
Yeah, you kind of got the sense that it was going to be a mistake that cost one of these teams, but it really wasn't. Like, if you look at the OT winner, it was, how many times have the St. Louis Blues done that in this series? It was a point shot, screened, deflection. Jordan Binnington really had no chance on it. But it wasn't a key mistake. The Gabriel Velarde one, you talk about that Vegas game a few years ago. Dylan Sandberg had the key turnover in that one. That gave me flashbacks. The Gabe Velarde turnover right in front of the net. It immediately leads to a high danger chance, and the Blues hit the post on it. They had another 3-on-2 where the Philip Broberg snapped his stick. Pretty good chance for the Blues as well. So many ups and downs in this overtime, but it wasn't a costly mistake for the Blues that cost them. It was just a good play by the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, the Jets were working those D-to-D passes really well with Pionk, DeMello, Hayden Fleury, who had an incredible game, but and there were even some great defensive plays. There was one back check by Neil Pionk where he stopped a chance and the crowd applauding. The one incredible moment for me was Kyle Connors going for a change and the puck is near him and the whole crowd was like yelling at him like, hey, turn around, the puck's right there, don't go for this change. And he did turn around and played it, and that is how much of an impact the crowd can have at home. I don't know if I'd ever seen anything like that.
That's home ice advantage. You're helping your players out. There was also a time in overtime where the puck was in, I think it was Nikolai Ehlers' feet. You can say that many times in this game. Nikolai Ehlers seemed to always have the puck in his feet, but the whole crowd yelled feet and the player, or Nikolai Ehlers, looked down and started kicking at it. So, hey, shout out to the crowd in here, just telling the Jets players what to do, and they listened.
It was an incredible atmosphere throughout the game. Game 7. I do love how they get everyone hyped up before waving the towels. And again, they're getting shot after shot. Pionk, DeMello, I mentioned Fleury, Samberg.
Yeah.
And eventually it's Neil Pionk taking a shot from the point. And what Adam Lowry said, it went off his leg.
Yep.
And it went in, and everyone's going crazy.
Yeah, the roof truly blew off this building. I said the Cole Perfetti goal was one of the louder crowd pops I've ever heard. This one as well. Double overtime, the build up going into this goal. Adam Lowry said he always dreamt of, scoring a Game 7 OT winner, as every hockey player does growing up. I'm sure all of us did as well. And Adam Lowry said he wishes it would have been a little bit nicer than going off of his leg. But hey, I don't think he cares. I think the Winnipeg Jets are going to take this win however it came to be. This was such a physical series, such a grind. The fact it went to double overtime with how physical it was. Adam Lowry was under the microscope too. He only had 2 goals in the series. Both of them were empty netters. He was a player that needed to have a big Game 7, and I thought he was fantastic all game long and earned his luck. There's that term again. I think he earned his luck in this one, and it was the OT winner there for sure.
Yeah, what a moment, and the Winnipeg Jets are able to advance, move on, and make it to the second round against Dallas, who had a similar third period comeback the night before, also missing their number one, top scoring forward and their number one defenseman. So the Jets win at 4-3. Place is going crazy. Still in disbelief of what we just witnessed here, and we're gonna wind this down, Connor. We went through some of the minutes before with Neil Pionk playing 46, 15, Samberg 44.
We want to get to the series MVP.
Yeah, Hellebuck stopping 26 of 29, and the Jets really outshot St. Louis. And as the game went on, similar to game 1 here, they were the team that had the advantage. And it would have, the way they were playing, it would have been a bit of even more of a heartbreaker to lose that one for sure. But I think at the same time, we're like, hey, they earned the opportunity to play in overtime scoring in the dying seconds of the period.
Yeah, and I was saying to Jacob Stoller, sportsnet.ca, we do WST Sunday live together every Sunday at 9 a.m. It was a game day edition this morning, and it was an absolute blast. I was saying to him, I'm going to have to cover the Winnipeg Jets for another 40 years to watch a better game than this one. Double overtime, Game 7, Jets tie it with a second left. This was such an incredible game. If you were in the building for this game, if you were in the street party, it was well worth it to spend that money, to make the effort, to be in the street party on a gorgeous Sunday night. And the Winnipeg Jets, this was, for my money, recency bias, it's fresh. I think the best game in franchise history.
Yeah, because they've
had
had overtime wins in the playoffs going back to the series against Edmonton.
Yep.
But
no
never
one was here.
But they've never had a home overtime win in front of the whiteout to do it in Game 7 in double overtime. When you talk about top Jets moments, the comeback against Nashville here when they tied up after being down 3. But tying it in the dying seconds of a Game 7 and then winning it in overtime. We'll be talking about this for a long time. I think we'll be talking about the NHL anytime anyone's down.
Yeah,
especially in the Game 7 latest tying goal in Game 7 history. So what a moment. And Kyle Connor 36.08 and Adam Lowry 32.06. I thought he got better as the game went on, using his big body down low. I thought Niederreiter had a strong game, finished as +1, 23-34.
Yep.
Morgan Barron, you really saw his speed, and you needed him to step up without Mark Scheifele. We've talked a lot about the defense. Brandon Tanev was hitting everything. Cole Perfetti scored the 2 goals. He played 28-45. Dominic Toninato, team low, 9:57. Didn't see the ice too much in either overtime. I don't know. It was Nikolai Ehlers, gutted it out. Yeah. Seemed like he was, after every shift, laboring back to the bench. I'm curious what his, they didn't update anything on injuries.
No.
Josh Morrissey, they said we'll see tomorrow, and we'll see Mark Scheifele, but they were just focused on the win here.
Yeah, and that'll be, I think, the biggest piece of news going into round 2, Remo, is the status of Mark Scheifele, is the status of Josh Morrissey, because this was an incredibly gutsy effort, not only from Nikolai Ehlers, but all 5 defensemen as well. And how about we get to the Game 7 legend now, and then we'll do Series MVP at the end.
Okay,
Game 7 legend. Who you
got some awards. I
Got
was
some
thinking
awards.
about, okay, Game 7. Who is going to be the player to step up and deliver a performance that you're talking about for years down the road as a Game 7 legend? And you and I had mentioned Hayden Fleury as a candidate. I thought he had elevated his game, making plays, especially with 5 defensemen. But that was when the Jets were losing.
Yeah.
As soon as Cole Perfetti tied it with his second goal of the game, Cole Perfetti gets stamped.
Yeah.
Game 7, Winnipeg Jets legend. The beautiful tip goal on the power play and the game-tying goal. Congratulations, Cole Perfetti.
Yes, congrats, Cole Perfetti. That's a great pick. I will say the only other player I think has a case, Neil Pionk. 46 minutes.
Okay.
He had the game of his life. So many plays shut down off the rush. So many great zone exits. He had the assist on the game winner as well. I agree with your Cole Perfetti pick, but I will say Neil Pionk, a very close second. Very close second.
Yeah, 3 assists.
3 assists.
The ice time, and you sent me that tweet. The most ice time in a Game 7.
Since 1999.
First player to log over 40 minutes in a Game 7 since Pronger and Al McInnes for the Blues in 1999 versus the Coyotes. So, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Cole Perfetti gets all the glory as the goal scorer, but Neil Pionk was making defensive plays, was playing huge minutes, and he elevated his game. Yeah, we'll go to Series MVP, not an official award in the NHL, but I think it's fun conversation. I was leaning in Cam Fowler if the Blues one would be my candidate, but I think it's got to be Kyle Connor here. Two assists, 2 game-winning goals, assisting on other game-winning goals. He's got 8 assists. He had 3 in this game. Kyle Connor gets my Series MVP.
He gets my Series MVP as well. Easily the Jets' best offensive player. I will say Cole Perfetti had the goal counted in St. Louis, and maybe he hits a few of the open nets early in the series. Maybe gets my Series MVP as well. But Kyle Connor was finishing those chances. The game winner in Game 1, that's another moment that we're here in Game 7 double overtime, and there are so many great moments from this game, but the Jets won Game 1 with a minute and a half left. This series was full of incredible moments. Kyle Connor was at the center of it all. He gets my Series MVP as well. That's a great pick, Remo.
And this was a series where the home team won in every game. And
the series never started, right? That's the saying is a series never starts till a home team loses. This one never started.
So the Jets, holding serve, we've been saying that
holding
all series, showing why they won the President's Trophy. So I think at this point, Connor, we're 40 minutes in to this thing.
You go for another 40.
Yeah, we could probably talk about this game, not just tonight, but for years and years. Where were you? And, you mentioned people in the building going nuts, and it was talking to my dad who's watching my kids while I'm here because my wife's out of town. Almost woke them up, screaming so loud. So I'm sure many people had, the stories of where were you for Winnipeg Jets, St. Louis Blues, Game 7, one of the great Game 7s of all time. I don't think that's hyperbole to say. I know there's going to be a lot of recency bias, but when you tie a game with that much time, what a swing it was here in the building, and feel so fortunate to be here.
Yeah,
you talking about it. Fortunate for our listeners who've watched the post game reactions all series long. We're looking forward to bringing that again in the Dallas series. I'm very excited, but we'll first have a couple of days off because I need to take a breather after this one.
The Jets do too.
The Jets need a breather. Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. start. So we're going to have a couple late starts for this one.
Yeah, and I can confirm the Winnipeg Jets are not practicing at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Coming out of a double OT Game 7, they're not going to put them right back on the ice. We might hear from Scott O'Neill, and we'll see if they have an availability, if they have maybe an optional skate. I can't see many players taking the optional. How battered and bruised are the Winnipeg Jets from this series? So physical from start to finish. But yeah, truly an incredible series. So fortunate to be able to be in the building, like you said, Remis, for all 4 of these home games. And coming into the day, I was incredibly grateful that I was covering my first ever Game 7. I think it's downhill from here. I gotta say, covering my first ever Game 7, it does not get much better than that. And I hope Jets fans at home really enjoyed this one because it was such an incredible game.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, I do wonder if this helps the Jets relax
Nerve.
a little. You've got over the hump, and you're lucky to even be in round 2 after this miraculous comeback. Guys, Velarde, Ehlers, maybe they're getting healthier. Waiting to see on Morrissey and Scheifele would be a huge bounce. But for the Jets to win that game, tying it up late without Josh Morrissey, without Mark Scheifele, when you had that feeling of, you're watching the team that played in, game, whatever games in St. Louis, 3, 4, and 6.
Yeah.
And you're saying, it was a couple bad minutes, but the rest of the game was pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, they were able to put a couple past Jordan Binnington. Talk so much about his accolades, winning a Stanley Cup, winning the Four Nations, but it was Connor Hrabchak coming out on top. And
Hrabchak got him back overtime. Just like Four Nations, got him back.
Got him back.
Jets fans got the best of both worlds on that. Canada won, and then the Jets won. Perfect.
The Binnington-Hrabchak matchup, who we said yesterday, Hustler said on our Saturday Pop, one of the great goaltending matchups ever. Someone doubted in the comments. I was like, I don't know, man. Like a Four Nations winner, Stanley Cup champion, wasn't the Conn Smythe winner, but very well could have been. Versus, 2, soon to be 3-time Vezina Trophy nominee and a Hart Trophy, Vezina winner and Hart Trophy nominee. I think that's a pretty good goaltending matchup, and proved to be certainly in overtime.
It really was. And it's going to be so interesting to see if this is the turning point for Connor Hrabchak. Goaltenders can win games, win playoff series on their own if they play at an insanely high level. We've seen it in so many years. What if this is a turning point? What if this overtime was a turning point for Connor Hrabchak, where he looked like Connor Hrabchak? There were screened deflection shots that he smothered, and there were no rebounds. And there were high danger looks that he smothered with no rebounds. This was Connor Hrabchak. He is back in this overtime. He was back in this overtime, I should say. I'm not going to declare him back fully, but that is the number one thing I think we should all watch for going into round 2 is, was this a turning point for Connor Hrabchak, and does he look more like himself in round 2?
Yeah, and the Jets played Dallas tight all year long.
It's going to be such a good series.
And remember the game that was here.
Yep.
But hey, they're turning the lights out on us. I think it's time to wrap it up. We've said it all. For Connor Hrabchak, I'm Michael Remis. This has been the Winnipeg Sports Talk post-game reaction.